down the slope. We are back. We're back with a bit of an unfamiliar feeling in the air because we are coming to you after a Hibernian league defeat. Something that we've not experienced for 5 months, boys. Is that about right? 5 months? It's been coming up for
December,
6 months.
Yeah.
It has been a long, long time since we've done it, but we are back and we're full of the cheer because we're not going to make this a gloomy episode because I don't believe there's too much reason to be gloomy this evening. I'm joined by Ewan and Craig. Ewan, the episode is called All Good Things. ...
Uh-huh.
What is something that has come to an end for you that you are more gutted about than the
Oh,
run that we've just succumbed to?
probably the pasta that I just finished about 20 minutes ago, mate. That was that was dynamite. No, I'm really disappointed that it's come to an end, but I'm not angry or, but I am gutted that just having that, it doesn't change the way I feel about the team, but, we've still not lost. But, as you say, all good things in that, eh?
Craig, anything Hibs related that's come to an end for you that
Sorry,
you're gutted
I
about?
was preparing for a non-Hibs related answer there.
You can give me both.
Yeah, TV series Vikings. I love that. Was gutted when that finished. Gutted when the main guy died.
Never heard of it, genuinely.
No, never.
Oh, mate, watch it. It's good. Vikings. Ragnar Lothbrok. It's good. Hibs related. Mate, the cup celebrations in 2016. I'd still
They were
like to
good.
celebrate that every year, but it
Uh,
doesn't have the same bounce to it as it did the first couple of years.
Do you
They
know
were
if I
good
was going to
times.
share a disappointment? So, I know I'm sure you're a big fan, Liam. I don't know if you are, Craig. The US Office. See so Lorna never watched it before. So about I don't know about 5 6 months ago we watched it. I've watched it start to finish a lot. Seeing the disappointment on her face when she realizes that spoiler alert, that Michael actually does leave and it's not just like a fuck about in the episode. I would say that is the level of disappointment that I felt on Saturday.
It was never the same.
For me, Michael Scott leaving the office is
End of.
one of the saddest
Uh,
things. I'm one of these people that can't not see something through to its conclusion, though, so I have to then watch the remaining,
uh,
there's like another 40 odd, maybe 50 odd episodes where I'm not in it. Where it does suffer, doesn't it? The quality
it
is
does.
diminished quite heavily from not being in it. Anyway, talking about quality being slightly diminished, that's maybe a wee bit harsh, isn't it? It's a wee bit on the
It
nose.
was smooth. It
Uh,
was smooth. Maybe a
the,
bit.
I don't think the quality was diminished of the starting lineup at the weekend. We saw three changes with Kieran Bowie, Josh Campbell, and someone else, Warren O'Hora, coming
Yep.
in. That's who came into the start. So three changes from the game a couple of weeks ago. Craig, happy with the team selection?
Uh, yes and no. I was okay. I wasn't delighted, to be honest. I think it was our strongest, but nothing that was like overly concerning to me. Just probably Ahura was the only one that was the one that worried me the most. Coming into a game like that after not playing from the start for too many minutes concerned me a wee bit. And I've been really enjoying Miller and Cadden on that side, sort of interchanging. And I think maybe we suffered a wee bit with that, but that was the main one.
Nice one, nice one. Ewan, so same question to you.
Aye, yeah, much the same as Craig. It was the most surprising of the three, and it was probably also of the three changes, the one that caught your eye the most in terms of maybe from a negative point of view. The other two, I think we all expected Bowie to start. I probably expected Campbell to come back in as well, if we're being honest, for Hoylett, going up to Pittodrie. I think we missed Miller. I do. I think just as an outball as much as anything else, can carry it 30, 40 yards and get you out quite quickly up that right side. And definitely didn't see the best of Chris Cadden as what we have done, with Miller behind him. I think he had to be a little bit more one-man show on that side than he had been in recent weeks, and that was definitely to our detriment.
Definitely something that was picked up a lot in the aftermath of the game, the absence of Miller. Kind of funny because I think, even just maybe 6 7 weeks ago, I don't think we're talking about the absence of Lewis Miller being a factor and
No,
us, lose this run ending. But he has really over the last maybe 6 or 7 games, I would say, maybe made that right centre back spot his own with some really good performances. So totally see the case for it. Listen, I think the first half was not exactly the most spellbinding 45 minutes of football, but there were some chances for either side. Who, Craig, do you feel got the better of the first 45 minutes of the game?
I've literally only watched any of it once at the game. I've not watched any of it back at all. And at the game, to me, it felt like Aberdeen probably had the better of the play, but we had the better of the chances. I don't know if that's how it looked watching it back, but I felt like there was a couple of times where we really should have put the ball in the back of it. Campbell head at the back post probably being the main one for me. I think he has to score that. It reminds me of a header David Gray had away at Kelly, and he's at the back post and he just heads it down into the base of the post.
Yeah.
Exact same sort of thing. Definitely should score. But yeah, I felt we were getting lax on the ball. There was just not that same sharpness there that we've had in previous weeks just on the ball. I felt we were defending okay, in fairness. I don't think defensively we were too poor. I was impressed with Abita on the left-hand side. I thought he dealt with a lot that was getting thrown at him quite well. I don't know if that's just because he was literally right in front of us. Maybe I've seen more of him. But yeah, I think definitely first half, and to be fair, I would probably say it was the story of the whole game. I felt Aberdeen were probably the better side.
I did see a quick clip of ref watch, I think it was only 30 seconds or so, and Dermot Gallagher sharing that he felt as though the goal that might have been a goal might not have been a goal. Don't think we've really had that level of analysis yet. The foul was harsh. Ewan, what was your view on it?
Incredibly harsh. Aye, yeah. Whether the ball crossed the line or not, it looked like it maybe did. But that would be with no real certainty. It would at least be good to know if it was for a foul on the goalkeeper, or I think O'Hara has sort of pushed someone at the back post, or I mean pushed in the fucking lightest of terms, but I think it's harsh, really harsh. If that's a goal, to rule out a goal for that is poor. I think the referee blew after they'd cleared it, so they should have had the chance to review it. I'm guessing they did, and either they've deemed it as a foul or maybe they've just felt the ball's not over the line. I honestly haven't. Surely I'm mad. I thought more was going to be made of that after the game, to be honest, and then that was the first thing today on Sky Sports News. That was the first I'd really seen or heard of it.
I think the narrative has been such that because it's us coming to the end of a winning run, I think that has shifted the focus of what's happened away from the actual events of the game. If that makes sense. I think it very quickly turned to Hibs unbeaten runs over. What's and then ultimately, the questions immediately as soon as you lose a game after that is like, what's the impact going to be next week and on the rest of the season? So I think people just move on from the game very quickly. I think we're going to move on from the game quite quickly. I'm not going to devote a huge amount of time talking about it, but I will talk about their goal, obviously. Warren O'Hara potentially could do a wee bit more to stop the cross. Craig, I know you've not had the benefit of seeing it back. I think if you're going to really, analyse it in detail, I think he could do more to stop the cross. Rocky's header, an okay clearance header, from a difficult position. And then quite let's be honest, I mean, we've seen it when he was at Hibs. Kevin Nisbet is capable of some very innovative finishes. He's scored some very, very good goals, volleys, inside the foot, outside the foot. That's a really clever finish. Anything else you want to add? I've not really asked you a question.
On the goal?
Nothing. I actually think you're maybe being a bit harsh on the defence. I know you're trying to analyse it, but to me, that's one of these ones. I know. And as I'm saying, I'm like, but it is right on the edge of the box. So maybe if he takes that down and then puts a more normal finish, maybe you're criticising it more. But I think just for the sort of the way he finishes it, for me, it's a screamer. Like, it's just a good goal.
My general tendency was, unless it's like a pandemic of conceding from cross balls, my general tendency with cross balls is that sometimes balls get crossed into the box, and it's about how you deal with it afterwards that's important rather than the actual cross ball itself. But I did see quite a bit of discourse just following the game that maybe O'Hara could have done more. It does potentially look like he, I suppose he could have gone to ground, but then there's the disadvantage of him going to ground. Anyway, that is a really micro example of a nothing point within the game.
Do you know what? It's maybe where you've maybe got a more natural fullback playing in that position that's more accustomed to being in the areas as well. Maybe that, maybe Miller does a better job there. But it's, like you say, how many goals have we scored for crosses this year? Do you know what I mean? And I don't think at any point have we said, oh, well, the other team should have defended that better. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the things. It's a fantastic goal from Nisbet's point of view. I think Rocky's leading header is more than adequate. Do you know, like, to get it back out towards the edge of the box when it's like keeps kind of stretching and stuff, and then he sort of brings it down and hits the shot in one action. I don't think I don't think anyone gets the chance to get to him because of the way he does it. Do you know what I mean? If someone's right on him and somehow makes an arse at the end, then maybe, but I think it's just one of the goals where and we missed enough chances for that not to matter, in my opinion.
When somebody takes the ball in their chest and hits it straight away for the edge of the box and essentially dinks the goalie for 18 yards out, I think you just have to kind of say that it's a good goal for me.
Aye. No, 100%, boys. I think for me, the disappointment would be for just how we sort of reacted or didn't react to going 1-0 down. The game sort of flipped a wee bit. We'd obviously made a fair number of substitutions, but we didn't really manage to impose any pressure on Aberdeen post the goal, and I think that will be a disappointment. Because I think generally during this run, one of the things that we have done well is we have generally reacted to moments in the game that have gone against us. Aberdeen, given the wee, I like to shout out every week, given the wee XG number a wee boost at the end of the game by creating a couple of chances where the game state was sort of flipped, obviously, and as we were coming on, they were getting a wee bit of space in mind, and probably Daba probably should have made it 2-0 and wrapped the game up, in all honesty. Lads, before that, move us on swiftly as I promised. Anything else that you want to add?
I think just what you said there, Liam, spot on. I just really annoyed me on Saturday night through into sort of Sunday, this like narrative that Hibs just went to defend, and I just didn't see that. I know we didn't record last week, but like I think if we had spoke about the game, having watched Aberdeen play Hearts, you'd say let Aberdeen have the ball, hit them on the counter, and if Campbell scores after 10, 15 minutes, then the game's almost an identical start to our last win there. We had more of the ball this time. We had more shots. Yeah, we didn't have any on target, but like you hit the post, Rocky missed a sitter. Like up until the goal, Aberdeen had one shot on target, and it was literally a snail's pace shot into Smith's arms. Does that mean that was a better chance than Campbell's? Do you know what I mean? Like it was ultimately a game that, in my opinion, should have finished a draw on the balance of play, but they scored a wonder goal and we missed too many chances, and it was just really frustrating to see how quickly it turned. Hibs bottled it. Hibs shat the bed. Hibs went to play for a point. Maybe later in the game we did. Maybe with the subs we'll take a point here, but I just didn't see the game in that way personally. Like look at Boyle's chance in the first 5-10 minutes. It came first pressing high up the pitch. Like I didn't see it. I just didn't see that at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. Craig, anything from you?
No, I wasn't going to see. The only thing that I'll sort of touch on it, I've maybe found a wee bit strange, and still can't quite get my head around it, was a sub when he brought Nicky Cadden on. I was a wee bit confused with that one, and I not convinced that it worked out. I don't know if he was trying to do something different, because it kind of looked like Cadden kind of went in more attacking mid.
Right, he went central, didn't he?
Which I wasn't a massive fan of that, because I thought he was anonymous, really, to be honest. I thought that kind of nullified all his best traits, really.
When he done that, I thought he was going to move Obita in the middle.
Aye, would have done that in the game a few weeks ago, didn't he? Put Obita into midfield. I mean, my theory on it is he wanted Cadden's dead ball delivery because he knew how important that was going to be late in the game, but he also recognised that Obita was getting good spaces down the left, so he didn't want to take him off. Kind of understood it, but it didn't work. I think is plain and simple. It just didn't work. Yeah. An experiment probably not to be repeated.
Yeah. It's well, just sorry. It's just. Do you think we set up any differently really there than we did at St Mirren away, at Ibrox, at Aberdeen last time, at Tannadice? Do you know what I mean? But the outcome is different. But I just, I didn't see anything. I felt like we've been quite happy. Even Craig at Kelly, I know we dropped points that day, but in the second half we kind of did just go, right, come and try and break us down, and obviously they scored late on. I didn't see anything from Hibs that we haven't really seen away from home in this run, personally.
Yeah.
I think the bottling narrative is a very, very small minority.
Yeah.
We've been very vocal, and to be honest, I do think, you know, part of it is looking for a bit of attention. To be honest, I don't really think anyone truly believes that we bottled that game. I think people may be frustrated at the outcome, or, you know, frustrated at the lack of reaction going 1-0 down. But I think bottling it is something very different to me. But I think that is, I've spoken about this before, there's a lack of vocabulary among football supporters, so they just apply the term bottling it or falling apart every time something goes wrong. That's how we bottled it or we fell apart. Like,
I think it'd be a little bit disingenuous.
It's just a very
of
different
me
game.
to
It would have
not
been 0-0.
understand, but yeah, I think I
0-0.
think it'd be wrong if I said I didn't understand people's frustrations, but I just feel like, God, do you know what I mean? Like, just we lost a game of football.
It's just the usual, mate.
Like,
Usual stuff. Anyway, we are going to wrap up on the game. Just going to call it a few of the YouTube comments. Chris Black said, have to be honest, we lost a bit with O'Hora and also didn't think Campbell offered too much and we really missed Hoylett. Yep, I think we're all agreeing with me there, Chris. Campbell header gave me Paco Luna vibes. It did a wee bit, actually. Very similar chance to the Paco Luna chance in a rather pivotal game that we shall not continue to talk about, because we've talked about plenty on this. And Red TV showed a replay and ball was defo over the line. Not seen that replay.
I was watching on Red TV and it did look, let's say it looked like it was in, but fuck knows.
Interesting one from John McGlynn said Campbell never had the best of games, but the dogs abuse from online fans is shocking. I've not seen any of that, I must admit, and I just, this is a bit of I think a bit of a frustration for me, to be honest. I think Josh Campbell over the piece, I know he's not started the last number of games, but Josh Campbell over the piece has been a real pivotal part of this turnaround that we've had this season. The way that we've played with him and the team, his aerial prowess, you know, his work rate that we've spoken about endlessly on this over the last 3.5 years. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to comment too much on it, but I'm a bit disappointed to hear that he's already, just after one defeat, getting
just
a bit
reverted to the norm, mate. Just reverted to it. But Josh Campbell's Paul Hanlon, he's, do you know what I mean? It's the easy, when Paul Hanlon was captain, it was his fault because he didn't scream and shout at people. It's just the go-to, isn't it?
What is it with Josh Campbell getting abuse? Honestly, I didn't get it. I love the guy. Like, he's Hibs as fuck, and he runs his heart at every single game. And, you know, fans always going about how, like, the bare minimum is giving 100% effort, and Josh Campbell gives that every game when quite often some players don't really, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
And I thought he was putting his head in places where it would hurt. The weekend, I didn't think he was great, and I didn't think he was terrible, but
there was other players that were
just usually.
There was other players that were more disappointing than Josh Campbell at the weekend. But I do think part of it is you know, saying everything you said is why he gets the stick, because he's Hibs fan, because he's been here for ages, because he tries. People just go, well, that's all he does. Anyway,
why do you not love
Liam,
that?
I know, Liam, you've tried to wrap us up on this 5 times, and I just want to highlight John McGlynn's other comment, and just to see if this is going to stick or not. So John says, mind and hit the like button, which is fantastic. And then he said slopers. Are we coining that?
No.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest, John. I think that might need some work. It's better than being called downers, that's for sure. But I'm not sure about.
Which is what we're trying not to be tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, there's some talking points as well. We went out for being completely out of the habit of doing this over the last few months. We went out for some talking points after the game, so I'm just going to really quickly cover off most of them. There was a good question from Liam Young, which was, is Bowie, with his current fitness, a better sub than starter? I thought he looked off the pace on Saturday at times. Ewan, I know your opinion, so I don't want to hear it. Craig?
Do you know what's interesting? Me and Bex, Harry's sister, went up to the game on Saturday, and we were having the exact same conversation, both on the way up there and actually on the way back, with a wee bit of context, obviously, on the way back. Because I've been surprised, like, it looks like his legs go. And is that wanted, I suppose, because he's not really had a proper pre-season with injury and then come straight into the action. But I feel like he's played enough minutes now that he should. I would have expected him to look a bit more full of life in the sort of maybe like 50 to 60 minute mark. But at the moment, he's looking really leggy. Aye, it's difficult. I've got to say, before the game, I was like, nah, there's nothing in that. And then after it, I found myself saying, well, maybe there is. Maybe his physicality late on at the moment with his level of fitness coming on and getting stuck in about defenders that are a bit more tired uh, would benefit him a bit more. I don't know.
There is also
Possibly.
just the fact that late in the game, do you know, like he does carry more of a threat than say Miko, especially coming off the bench. So like he's more likely to grab a goal, and more often than not in the final half hour, that's where you're going to grab the goals. Do you know what I mean? Especially the way we've been playing sort of pretty steady first half and kicking on second. But I won't say any more, Liam.
Thank you.
I'll speak when spoken to.
Good lad. The prizes for the most negative response to our talking points tweet on Saturday goes to Jamie, JTHM80 on Twitter. Jamie, I think, is normally quite rational, but he's maybe verging on irrational here. But he has offered to come on the podcast and talk to us. He said, absolutely shite. Went up there and shit the bed. Campbell, pish, unless playing OF. No idea why Hoylett didn't start over him. Bowie and Boyle shite too, but not helped by the shit the bed tactics. Happy to come on the podcast and reiterate. Jamie, we will definitely take you up on that at some point. We're always happy to have new voices on. Also, congratulations for the number of shit and shite in one tweet. I think that must be a record. Really, really good work. Appreciate it. If I'm going to be honest, I think you choose one or the other. I think it's shite.
It's consistency.
Yeah, you've got to go either shit or shite, personally. I would always choose shite because I think it's...
Maybe it was a character thing.
Shite's just more pleasant to say. I like saying shite.
Yeah.
And then final one, comment from Ben Jaloon. Highline was a mistake and we really miss Ellie in these games. Couldn't agree more. Definitely missing the main man, Ellie Yuan. It is a bit of a pity that we've not seen him since Boxing Day, but we have, but it was one fleeting appearance since Boxing Day. Don't think we'll be seeing him again. Just
I'm
based
over it
on
already.
the music.
I'm over it already. Like, I can't be arsed with all this Yuan stuff, to be honest. Now, love the guy, love the player he was, and I'm quite convinced he's a really good person and all that. But it's at the stage now where I just want that situation to be over in terms of him moving on. To be honest, because I think it feels a wee bit like it's hanging over the squad, in my opinion. Like, is he going to come back? Is he not? I just think let's just get over and move on. To be honest.
Yeah,
right, there's going to have to be a buyer for him to go anywhere.
This is also an issue. Right. That was hopefully fairly cathartic for you. Hope it was fairly cathartic for the listeners. Let's move on to talk about next week first. So Keith Robertson said to us, was always going to happen. Hopefully Gray gets the team going again next week. Almost forgot what it felt like to lose a game. Was going to ask the Jambos. How did they go on the weekend again? Anyway, that's yesterday's news, according to their chairperson. Let's move us on. Dundee United, what was already billed as a big game, has maybe just become a wee bit of a bigger game. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, because we do 1 to 10 here, we don't do marks at 15. That would confuse you too much. Where does this rank on the big game scale, Craig?
Well, I would put Aberdeen probably at an 8 because it's not a cup final or anything. So I'll say I'll stick with an 8.
An 8. Ewan?
If I was to do the scale, I like Aberdeen being 8, so I would probably put Dundee United to a 9. Obviously, you don't want to lose 2 games in a row, obviously, especially after the run we've been on. But I think, and I'm sure we'll touch on it in a bit, I think this is one of 2 games that if you win, you probably finish third. In my opinion, after the weekend, I think 6 points probably gets you third place.
Okay. I watched a wee bit of, I'm not confessed I haven't watched also, I watched a wee bit of Dundee United Celtic on Saturday. They were fairly resolute up until Celtic scored, but as is the way once Celtic score, the floodgates do tend to open. Probably didn't really learn anything new about United this based on that performance. They are, I think Harry has been on record as saying they are an absolutely woeful team. I don't think they're quite that bad, but I don't think they are great either. But they do have some workmanlike players and some players who've been getting quite a lot of plaudits this season. I think Will Ferry, Vico Savelge, Sam Dalby. They've obviously. I think all three of those were new signings in the summer, so they've obviously recruited fairly well in summer. They've put themselves into a position where they are still in the hunt for third. They're doing something right. Craig, what are their strengths?
Sam Dalby, I think that's probably the main one. They've got a goal scorer. I think any team that has a guy that can consistently put the ball in the back of the net, from all types of different finishes as well. I think obviously he's won at Tynecastle, shows just like an unbelievable finisher's instinct to actually think to even shoot from there rather than maybe taking that down and laying it off. So yeah, he's definitely their main strength, and I think they've just got like just that bit about them that they just manage to stay in games no matter kind of how poorly they play, even against us. The one each Easter Road, they stay in the game, even though we've kind of outplayed them. The one where they beat us away 3-2, we should have won that game, and they're still in there, they hang in there, and then obviously managed to put the comeback on late. And even the one we beat them at Tannadice, arguably for large parts of that game, they were the better side. So yeah, they just have a stayability.
The stayability. I like that. That's another nice made-up football word. I told you about the lack of vocabulary in football earlier on. We're now just making words up. Ewan, ask Craig their strengths. What do you think I'm going to ask you?
They don't score goals. That's their weakness. They don't score enough goals. They have got by on a pretty good defensive record up until this weekend's game. They had the best defensive record outside of Celtic and Rangers. Ours is now better than theirs. But they're bottom six for goals scored. If Sam Dalby doesn't score, they don't score enough goals. They win a lot of games 1-0, like Craig says. They sort of they have a lot of staying power and they do hang around in games like Craig said, but their weakness is scoring goals. And if Hibs can, get a fast start, score a couple goals, I don't see that they'll have much ammunition in them to come sort of back round to that. It also seems like they had a really bad January window at what looked like could have been. Payton's not worked out. Campbell's not worked out.
He was my favourite Hollandies players to sign for Hibs players.
And I don't think that necessarily says anything really about
no.
Circumstances can dictate things. But yeah, they'll be at their weakness is that it's that simple. They don't score enough goals for a team that's in the top six. Kelly have only scored one less than them. And I don't think you would say Kelly are, swashbuckling football. Do you know what I mean? Dundee have scored 10 more than them. Just that's that. I think that's their only obvious weakness, actually, if I'm being honest. I think they're very good at the back. They've got a good goalkeeper. I think Hibs will win the game. I think we're better than them. I think we've proven in 2 of the 3 games that we're a better football team than them, and it just so happened in the one that we probably didn't look a better team than them was the one we won. But yeah, I'll be competitive.
Funny how football works sometimes, lads. I'm just going to cut right to the chase on this one. What's the score going to be?
3-0. Hibs.
2-1 Hibs.
Nice. Either you want to furnish me with some goal scorers?
Leave it a meat on the bones. I will say goal scorers will be Boyle and Rocky.
My goal scorers are going to be Nicky Cadden, Martin Boyle, and Miko.
Okay.
Because I think Miko starts.
Okay. I'm going to say we're going to do to Dundee United what they've been doing to teams and what Aberdeen did to us on Saturday, and I'm going to go 1-0 with. I think there's a it's just been a wee while, so there's a goal coming for Rocky Bashiri on
Yeah.
Saturday.
Can I ask Liam, so when you say 1-0, now obviously you've asked Craig and me about our opinion on United, like there's different types of 1-0. You know, like there's the way Aberdeen just beat it. Like, do you think it's good? Like, are you thinking Hibs are going 1-0 up in the first half and sort
I
of
think it's
playing a
going to
bit,
be
or is it a late?
no. I think it's going to be a 1-0 the way that we 1-0 Kelly just after Christmas. Can we got a goal before half time and just sort it out quite comfortably, put the onus on them to come and get us. And I think so I don't think it'll be hugely dramatic, but I think it'll be a vital 3 points. I think this team has shown that they can come back from adversity before. I think they'll do it again on Saturday. I would be very surprised if we don't get a positive result on Saturday. And there we go. We're back to winning ways. And then the rest of the season takes care of itself. I do think the pressure is going to be on us because I do believe Aberdeen will get a result against St Mirren as well this weekend.
Do you think?
And yes, I do. I
don't-
think St Mirren have done a really good job of raising their game against Rangers in particular this season, but also Celtic. And I think they have a tendency, particularly when there's not an awful lot in life. I mean, St Mirren can't really finish any lower than 6th, can they? Well,
They officially can't finish lower than 6th.
They can't finish any higher than 6th, is what I meant. I don't think. They certainly can't finish it, because that is the joy of the split, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to be in the top 6 to finish in the top 6. Now, other football clubs take note.
What about random tables that start in like mid-October?
Well, down the slope don't recognise made-up league tables. That is something that is done by absolute cardigan wearers. We do not recognise made-up league tables. Lads, let's get to some exciting Hibs news. Caught me by surprise a wee bit. Both, maybe not so announcement number 2, which we'll come to, but announcement number 1, which fell later on. The David Gray contract extension late last week caught me off guard. Was just working away, seen some pretty flurry of messages, because there's obviously people in group chats who've got notifications turned on for Hibs and notice everything that goes on. Caught me a bit by surprise. Did it catch you by surprise as well?
It did. I think it's interesting that it's ultimately a 1-year extension, which would suggest to me there's a reason for it. Do you know? Like, I don't particularly believe it's purely performance based. I think maybe there's been some sniffs around David Gray from other teams that maybe Hibs wanted to rework something in the contract, be that release clause or just to give him a more attractive package. I because otherwise I don't see why. I love David Gray and he's doing a fantastic job, but why would you do that just now and just give him 1 more year? Do you know what I mean? I feel like there has to be something that's driven that. Maybe I'm way wide of the mark.
Yeah, I was surprised by it too, to be honest. I mean, contracts in football really nowadays didn't actually mean that much, if I'm being honest, do they? Really, because he's at the end of the day, he's 5 losing games away from being sacked, and he's 5 winning games away from getting another contract probably. So, for me, I wasn't quite as intelligent enough to you and to come up with all this like release clause and
It's not
interest
intelligent,
stuff.
mate. It's just stupidness, if any.
My instinct right away was when he got the job, because it was his first managerial job and obviously low experience and on the face of things, taking out the fact that he's David Gray, it's a less attractive option for a football club of Hibs' size to be taking a manager with 0 experience. So I would imagine that when he took the job, he would have to take it on lower terms and pay and all that kind of stuff than a normal experienced football manager would get. So I think probably this was just, or my initial instinct anyways, that this would just be him getting better money, basically, him and his staff getting better money and better terms. That instantly what I thought, to be honest.
That feels more realistic than my made-up hypothetical situation, to be honest.
There's quite a lot of just naturally this sort of period of the season. clubs who have underperformed are going through the process of sacking their managers and head coaches. We see it in England, see it up here in Scotland. There's obviously, a few that have been on the sort of rumour mill, I suppose. I would be surprised if it wasn't driven by some amount of interest, but I also think it could just be interest and not actually anything concrete, and that's why we've not really heard anything about it. But delighted nonetheless. I think it's good news. Good to tie him down for a bit longer, albeit totally take on board what Craig says in terms of contracts and them not really meaning an awful lot. Before we touch on the next bit of news, I just wanted to give some love to the YouTube comments. Archie Meldrum said that black third top is a beauty. I thoroughly agree, Archie. You want to see the guy that's wearing it. John McGlynn said, now this is something. Slopies, Slopites, Slopiac, or Slopesters. Out of those four, what are you going for?
Slopiacs. Has to be.
Slopiac's very good. That's funny.
I'll certainly not be calling myself a Slopite, that's for sure. Jack Flash was a bit turgid up there, Miss Miller and Hoylett. Yep, 100% spot on. And he also said, I reckon they are pretty single fish. Great. I love the usage of single fish there. I think he's talking about Dundee United. Specky Idiot said, moan the cabbage, hearts are dog shite. Don't know who that is.
Sure.
Our friend Ryan said, do you think either Boyle or Rocky will stay? Scott Burns saying Boyle waiting on Hibs side of things. Not sure whether to trust anything he says, to be honest. Definitely don't trust anything that Scott Burns says, because he's been proven, actually, and the science will back this up, to be wrong more than he's right.
Especially
when it comes to Hibs.
Aye, yeah.
Oh, when it comes to Hibs, yeah. I don't listen to anything else Scott Burns says.
Did he
How
not
many
tweet the
scarves
Jamie
above
McGrath?
head?
Was he not? Did he not tweet in January saying like there was no interest in Jamie McGrath from like Hibs, and like 2 weeks later it was pre-contract?
Like I've spoken to someone at Hibs who chortled when I said about Scott Burns, and I'll say no more on it than that. Do you think Rocky or Boyle will stay? We have covered this affair, but Craig, I'm going to ask you, Rocky, yes or no?
No.
You and Boyle, yes or no?
Oh, yes.
So 1 out of 2, Ryan, is the answer to the question. I understand that Boyle still has that clause in his contract, which is just there to be activated.
I don't think that'll be activated. I think it'll be
a renewed terms for a couple of years.
I don't think he signs a 1-year deal.
Okay. Makes sense. John McGlynn said Boyle's away, I reckon, his missus' contract also up at the end of the season. I don't think that's a coincidence. I know what you're saying, but I think she's kind of been out of favour for a little while now anyway, hasn't she? She had quite a lot of injuries and Rachel Boyle, and obviously children and stuff like that. So maybe, not saying that her career's over, but maybe her career's kind of coming to a natural sort of twilight period, whereas maybe we thought the same about Boyle 6 months. Martin Boyle
100%.
6 months ago, to be fair, and he has proven that it's anything but twilight of his career with the performance of the season. And John McGlynn's side that he said more on the Slopiacs, which is quite something. Cheers for that, John. Right, the other bit of news that I was referring to, and I've kept you waiting, Jack Iredale. So a player that I talked about a couple of weeks ago as being maybe a sneaky, just because of how the timing works, and we all know timing with these things is really important, a sneaky sort of player of the year option.
Do you think that's sneaky? See, I was thinking earlier when we were talking about Lewis Miller that if we'd been having a shittier season, his running form would have been more of a sneaky player of the season shout. I feel like Iredale's just been good.
You're right. It's probably over a longer period of time than you would typically see. You're right. I still think it's kind of sneaky because I don't think he was getting really the credit he deserved until he scored a winner in a derby.
Oh, I
anyway.
think. It's an interest. I do remember you on here saying that. I think that was ages ago. And then maybe it went over the top, and then maybe it mellowed back down again, and like, oh, what a player! Great bit of business. Great bit of business.
Echo chamber, great bit of business. Player who's absolutely tailor-made from what I can see to play on the left of the back three. Probably signals, Craig, that we're going to be sticking with that system for a wee bit longer.
Yeah, it's quite funny when I'm thinking to myself, you asked me about David Gray's contract being extended, and then Jack Iredale's getting his contract extended, and I think when it's a player, you just look on it in a completely different light. Like, it's, to me, that feels more like protecting an asset, whereas David Gray felt like giving him more money. So it's bizarre how it works. Like, why is it not the same for both? Yeah, well, I would hope that we would stick with that. If we keep a sort of similar makeup of squad, I think it's the sort of shape that suits us best. Not massive on shape, but I think it would be sort of naive to not admit that this shape suits the makeup of the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd like to say I think it's really good business. I think it sort of. I know Lewis Miller obviously had his deal extended at the start of the week as well. Kind of a little bit like yesterday's news with that as well. But they're two players that are really comfortable in that position. So then you've got the Cadden brothers. I mean, if you could get Rocky tied down, your sort of back three and wing backs are set for well, at least another year, which when you look at where we've been in previous summers, that would be a massive, even just comfort going into the summer. Do you know?
What would you be tying a man like Rocky down with?
Oh, I don't think that's
James.
I don't think that's within my capabilities. I think that I'd be struggling. That's dangerous ground.
I was going to say you're starting to go down a weird route there. Can I actually ask you a question? Either of you, if Rocky was to go, because it's something that I've been thinking about myself. If Rocky was to go, would you be comfortable?
No.
Given his previous performances this season with Ekpiteta as the middle one and a three.
No.
See, I would.
Yeah, I think so. I think ideally you'd want. I don't think Ekpiteta has the same speed that Rocky has. I think if you were going to go for like replacement, I think you would want someone a bit quicker. I do think from what I've seen aerially, he's better than Rocky. I don't know about sort of across the ground in terms of sort of on ball defending, but it's two very different players for that position. So it might mean that actually what then needs to come into the side on either side of him or one side of him is different. I actually think that O'Hara's probably best suited to playing in the middle of a three as well. I don't think in the games that he's played there, I don't think you see the best of Warren O'Hara playing on the right of a back three.
I don't think either of them are quick enough to play in a back three.
Okay.
Personally, I think they're centre backs that are designed to be a little bit because this is just my opinion. I think if you play a three, you have to generally have a higher line. Otherwise, it very quickly becomes a five, and it can be far too defensive. And that works for Rangers, Celtic, going to POTY, stuff like that. But I think that's why we've excelled with Miller at right centre back instead of O'Hara over the last couple of months as well. So I think they are two centre backs that would excel in a two with two proper fullbacks, a 6 or an 8, two in front of them. Probably you're not expected to hold as high a line. You're not. I think the centre backs play much more of a prominent role when you've got a back three, and I just don't think either of them are quick enough to cover the ground like we've seen Rocky do this season in particular.
I think that gives us a problem, to be honest. If Rocky moves on, you're talking about having two other centre backs in the building who are not suitable to play in any of the positions.
I mean, if I'm being honest, if either of them moved on in the summer, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. I think Ekpiteta probably was overly criticised at the start of the season, but I also think he's probably been given too much credit in the bank whilst he's been injured because the bar was a lot lower at the start of the season ultimately.
Well, we will be covering that in a future episode. I do think that is some cause for concern if we're going to move on 3 centre backs in the summer and look to bring in 3 or more new ones with the squad depth that we'll need. Anyway, get on to back to this year and thinking about.
Sorry,
the email that came out today.
Ryan Smiley's just put in the chat about Richard Taylor if Rocky was to go. I think maybe someone that we would cover in a preview, but I think he would. Someone that kind of think would have the pace. I think pace and presence in a free in the middle is the most important thing. Sorry, just I know you're trying to move on.
Not to get all Nigel Farage and European Parliament, but I did mention Richard Taylor about 12 months ago, and you all laughed at me.
We also laughed at you for Alisanya, who's just went to the States. Liam, how's the grieving going?
I'm a superior football understander. That's obviously what I've got. A superior talent scout.
I actually can't even think who Richard Taylor is, to be honest. Is that like the right back?
big centre back.
No, I think you're thinking of Richard Tate that played at Motherwell as well.
Aye, black guy, plays centre back, big unit.
Massive.
Aye,
Covers the
big
ground.
boy, quick as well. Anywho, right, lads, let's get on to this, back to this season, and let's get on to the email that landed in your inbox at some point this afternoon. Hibs came out for their Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, and Goal of the Season nominations. I have been hosting tonight. I have not expressed my opinion enough, so I am going to tell you why these are the three correct choices. So I went for, actually, I'll tell you the first one first, then we'll do a wee roundy first.
Okay.
Go rounds. So my Player of the Year was Nicky Cadden. So I've gone for Nicky Cadden because I'm kind of going against the whole timing being really important. And I actually think if you look at when the good run started, it coincided with him getting into his correct position. Number of goal contributions from left wing back. I know he takes set pieces. I know he's taking the occasional penalty, but I think that is an outstanding number. And I think in terms of sort of vibes and energy that he's brought to the club during this win run, that is why I selected him for Player of the Year. Ewan, who did you choose?
Well, I'm glad you talked about vibes and energy, and my vote is in, and my vote was Rocky Bashiri. God, if you want to talk about vibes, I know that Martin Boyle got vibes manager or something for Australia at the World Cup, but Rocky Bashiri is a gets it merchant, every little thing you want to say, but I just think he's been genuinely excellent this year since he came in. I think the only game he started before the good run was that Dundee game. I might be wrong there, but I don't think he started a game before that. Came off the bench a couple of times, but
excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Craig, who did you go? Anyone different?
No, I went Rocky. I think everything that goes along with it. Apart from anything, I think he has been one of the best names in the squad, but also kind of a wee bit of the redemption arc maybe plays into that as well.
You both love a bit of narrative, don't you? You fucking X Factor watching Disney Plus having goons that yous are. Okay, young player of the year. I'm going to make a bold assumption here that all three of us have selected the same player. Craig, who is that player?
Nectar.
Correct.
Why did you pick Nectar over? By the way, did I see that Quan was listed on the young player? Or am I making that up? I think he's like 25 or something.
I always feel it's a bit of a con when it's a young player and it's like fully established first team players. Like for me, I think a young player should be one of our like academy young players. Maybe that would be difficult this season because probably there's not been many. It was probably such the importance of each game maybe has limited us from playing as many youngsters as maybe we'd otherwise like to. But it feels a bit of a con to vote a fully fledged first team member.
I know you're coming from the academy players, but then I think the downside of that is, or the other side of that is, I think Hearts couldn't give James Wilson Young Player of the Year because there wasn't any other young players. So they just had to give him a special recognition award at their Player of the Year last night. No other young players playing for the first team and B team. They've obviously got the B team set up there and stuff as well. I have a view on young player, which is I think age should be a factor. So I think you should be under the age of 23 when the award's given. But I also think number of appearances should be a factor as well. So I think, the year that Josh Campbell won it, I think he'd played maybe 100 or so senior games between his loan spells at Arbroath, Edinburgh City. I think Campbell was on loan at Airdrie for a period as well. And here,
he was.
I think that's too many. Ryan Porteous also, I think, won it pretty late. And I have a wee bit of a view that you've played too many games. You're not a young player anymore. You're very much an established first team player. So I think that should definitely be factored into it. But Triantis will win that award. I will put I wouldn't put my house on it because that would just be silly, but I'll put my piggy bank up on the wall on it. Right, now this one, I think this is going to be the most contentious of the three because I'll be honest, I deliberated over this because I think you had to, in some respects, there's quite a lot of goals that evoked quite a lot of emotion. So Kieran Bowie's late winner away at Dundee United, high emotion in terms of what that meant.
Interesting. I knew we'd talk about that. I just saw it. I've just mentioned that. I knew we'd talk about this before we came on. So I'd already voted, but I wanted Lauren as a total neutral. So tell me what the best goal was, and she said Bowie at Dundee United.
Interesting. It is the most emphatic, I think, maybe
Mm.
of the finishes. I deliberated for a while over this one, and like my choice really, really mattered. I did
I know.
actually spend a bit of time thinking about it. I went back, I was at, and was actually in line with it when it was taken, because I'd moved down to the other end of the ground in preparation for leaving. I chose Nicky Cadden's free kick at
As
home
did
to
I.
Aberdeen, because I just think it that obviously wasn't the moment in that game, because there was a moment that came later which was more pivotal, but it was a moment when I think we were obviously facing some major adversity. I actually just think in terms of isolation, the quality of the free kick, I'm struggling to remember sort of maybe two or three better free kicks I've seen from a Hibs player. It was just an incredible strike. Craig, you didn't choose that, did you? Which one did you choose?
I'll be honest. I'm sitting here and don't have to say this, but I pretty much disagree with everything that you pair have just come out with. Like, I think you're absolutely miles off it. First of all, I don't think it's difficult to decide. I actually thought this was the easiest one for me to decide. Second of all, I don't think it'll
Sorry,
even
who were
be
you
close.
deliberating over for a young player of the year that made that difficult to decide? Who was your
Eh?
other option?
Lewis Miller. But the goal. I mean, I honestly I don't think this will even be close. It's obvious. To me, it's obvious. Jack Iredale, like it's the best goal. I know you say the narrative shouldn't come into it, but it absolutely does. It was a volley against Hearts, which we never score screamers against Hearts that mean anything anyway. We've had lots in games that we've lost. So a volley for the edge of box against Hearts to win a third game in a week against Celtic, Dundee United away, and then Hearts at home. That wins it easily. Sorry, lads, you're wrong.
Hmm.
Okay. I think in the fullness of time, Craig, you will prove to be right. We will be wrong, because I think ultimately that will win the award. But talking of being right and being wrong, I'm looking forward to you pair being wrong for the next 10 minutes or so, because we are going to discuss in the next of our series. We've done the goalkeepers, we've done the fullbacks. Now, goalkeeper, we went with Ophir Marciano, won the goalkeepers.
Yep.
Top five, not so hotly contested. The next category was hotly contested, and I think what we landed was Gray and Stevenson for the fullbacks.
Yes, 1 and 2. Yep.
Yeah, Gray and Stevenson 1 and 2 for the fullbacks. So now, listeners, I'm sure you can guess, we are going to do Hibernian top 5 centre backs since the turn of the century, and we've all got our own sort of lists that we're going to come and talk through. We're going to do it in descending order, so we will, or ascending order actually. So we will do it from top, from 5. And I will go first with my number 5. So my number 5 on the list is Rob Jones. So, and I'll talk you just through my rationale. So Rob Jones made this list because of the team he was in that day in 2007, which he was absolutely pivotal in delivering, and not on footballing ability. Now, that is not to slate his ability, but he just was, how would I put it, a bit meat and potatoes. A wee bit meat and two veg, which absolutely you need as a defender. But I think when you're going to wax lyrical about players in your top 5, they need to have attributes for you to talk to. And Rob Jones was a real aerial threat. I think one season he maybe even almost got into double figures in terms of goals, but not a player really that I look back on, and he wouldn't be someone that I'd pick to play in my 5-a-side team. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Ewan, who's 5th on your list?
Sha la 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 la. Effie Ambrose is my number 5. Rob Jones did not make my list, which is I hope people don't expect consistency from me 4 years in an approach, considering David Gray and Lewis Stevenson basically got lifetime achievement awards over David Murphy because they won cups and stuff. But Effie Ambrose is my number 5. What a player. So good, and I just felt like Harry's not here, so I couldn't trust that you two would pick him, so someone had to
Don't worry,
cover
mate.
for Harry. So Effie Ambrose is number 5 for me. I'm saying I'm covering for Harry. He'll probably go mental at me for only having him number 5, but actual reasons, really cultured on the ball, you look at the team that he played in, and to still be sort of a standout in a team like that, I think was exceptional. Came in the championship, and I think really sort of was a big part in really kicking us on that season to get the championship title over the line, and then just excelled in the first season back up as well. A very enjoyable 18 months with Effie Ambrose.
Craig, who's your Mambo number 5?
I feel like I need to sort of preface my list, if that's the right word, and say that I am picking purely on players that I can remember playing, first of all, and remember watching, because I feel like I'm a wee bit done with age here. So, my players are definitely not going to be the best ability-wise that is out there, but there we go.
That's
5,
what
Rob
caveats
Jones,
got on it. Right, Rob
cup winner.
Jones. Rob Jones, cup winner. Captain.
Missed his goal as well because my dad was sorting my hat as the corner came in. And can you have the hats that have the badge on the front that folds up? He's
Aye,
flipped it down over my eyes just as he's went to header it, so I missed it.
aye.
We have Rob Jones thanked for something else. Well, he scored the only goal in the 80% possession game, in which, if we had not won that game that night, that would have gone down as probably the biggest 0-0 hammering
And we
of all
don't win the
time.
League Cup.
Aye. So hugely important player. Yeah, absolutely pivotal to to many things over that period of time. Held it together as well in what was quite a young team. So absolutely deserving of his place in the top 5. Sorry if we weren't complimentary enough at the start, Mr. Rob Jones. I know you're not listening, but I'm just going to say that anyway. Number 4, Craig, why don't you kick us off with number 4?
Hibs as fuck used to fold jeans, Darren McGregor. My number 4 and 5 don't have much footballing ability between the pair of them. Rob Jones and Darren McGregor, very much if in doubt, kick it out players. But Darren McGregor, just loved him.
I also have Darren McGregor number 4. Now, Darren McGregor, for me, I think could play more than people perhaps say. In that, I don't know if you remember the season before he came to Hibs, he played right back for Rangers for virtually the entirety of that season. It was actually very good. I think he actually won their Player of the Year playing right back that season. A player that I wanted to sign for Hibs long before he signed for Hibs, and what a servant he was. Absolutely. All the things you mentioned, Craig, in terms of his ability to defend the box, the number of times he came in during the COVID season, but also the season after, where we just needed a body, and he came in and gave you a performance. One that really sticks out in my memory is Dundee Utd away in the COVID season when he scored. He was brilliant in that game. And a really, really good servant to the club. And like number 5, a cup winner. There's a wee bit of a theme developing here. Ewan, who do you have at number 4?
I don't have Darren McGregor.
Oof.
Darren McGregor is not in my list either. My number 4 is Ryan Porteous. Also Hibs as fuck. I think he's better than Darren McGregor. I think ultimately. I don't know if you guys have got Porteous at Liam. If you don't have Porteous 1 or 2 after him scoring 500 goals for Hibs, I do predictions every fucking week for the first 2 years of this podcast. I think Porteous probably overly criticised at points and definitely overrated at points as well, but comfortable on the ball, really, really excelled at different points in his Hibs career. His move to England hasn't quite worked out for him. Probably could have expected that to happen at Watford, but no, I think Porteous edges it over Effie Ambrose and Rob Jones and Darren McGregor for me, which maybe sounds a bit mad, but I just think better football player, in my opinion. Maybe not than Effie Ambrose. He's probably a different defender from Effie, but mind they played together in a 2.
Aye.
They
Oh,
were class when they were
what a
together.
joy! What a joy!
Craig, going to come back to you for number 3.
Well, just touching on that partnership, I've got Effie Ambrose at number 3. One of the centre backs that I've most enjoyed watching at Hibs, Heart Attack Hibs. Just it was just fun to watch, wasn't it? It was entertainment, backflips and all when he scored. Apart from anything as well, by the way, a very, very good footballer, and often in Scottish football, overlooked was his ability, because he did have a few sort of notable moments, shall we say, where he's made errors, but actually a very, very good footballer. So yeah, number 3 for me.
So I have someone that you're probably, I'm guessing just based on where we've got, and you haven't mentioned them so far, probably not in your lists, but we'll see. I've got Sol Bamba at number 3. Now, I did deliberate a wee bit with Sol Bamba because I don't think necessarily we saw anything like the best of him when he was at Hibs. He played a fair bit of right back under Mixu, which was not his position. I think he also had quite a lengthy stint in defensive midfield, but I think most of his appearances came as centre back. He player who went on to achieve obviously some incredible highs in the game of football in terms of promotions. He was called up and played a World Cup when he was at Hibs as well for the Ivory Coast. He played with Didier Zokora at centre back in a warm-up game for Ivory Coast. I remember watching it. And it was just mad to see a guy that's played for Hibs starting for Ivory Coast, who were kind of like a bit of a dark horse for that tournament. I don't know if you remember, that was, I think,
mate,
Sven
you're stealing all my
Goran-Eriksson.
thunder.
Sven Goran-Eriksson was the manager, I think. Am I right in saying?
2010.
So no, huge fan of him as a player. Obviously, went on to achieve great things in the game. I remember him being sent off at Dundee United, I think maybe on his debut, but then kind of came back, bounced back, and went on to have some really big performances for Hibs, and a real favourite of mine from that particular era. You've got Sol Bamba at 3 as well.
I do, yeah, and I think it is the core memories sort of that you touch on that probably nudged him that high up on my list. I remember his goal at Falkirk away in the celebration where he basically murdered John Hughes on the touchline. And then what you're saying about the World Cup, it's genuinely like one of my favourite memories from being in school. We because it was South Africa, the games must have kicked off during the day, I think, and we got pulled out of like classes or we had PE or something, and they just shoved the game on for like the double period or whatever, and just watched a Hibs player play at World Cup. It was like this is fucking unbelievable. I love Sol Bamba, really did. It was right at that sort of like right age for me as well, like where like what would that have been, like 13, 14? So like it was really like Hibs was literally my life at that point, and Sol Bamba was one of my
still your
favourites.
life now, you. Come on. Right. Okay. We're getting now to the top 2, which I think are probably going to get a wee bit samey potentially with the change craze.
I know that Craig doesn't have one of ours.
Yeah, we know that. So Craig, I think you give us your 2 first, please.
My number 2 is Ryan Pochers.
Oh,
Ryan Pochers.
That's high.
Hibs as fuck. I used to go and watch the youth team when I had free time, in quotation marks, when I was at uni. When they played at Oriam, I used to go around there and watch. I watched a lot of youth games. And it was Ryan Pochers and Kevin Walker, centre half partners. Always thought Kevin Walker was a better one out of the two. Clearly proven wrong on that one. And Ollie Shot up top as well. Best young player in Europe. But no, I enjoyed watching Pochers. I actually think he's a really good player, and I think he's better than he's shown recently in England. I think he needs to find that consistency that he found at the early parts of his Watford career. Somewhere, wherever it is. So
I don't have Ryan Pochers in my top 5, which will surprise people who've been listening to us for a while, because I was a pretty big fan of his when he was here. My rationale for that is, I think when he first came in to the team, he immediately looked at home. You know, those young players where you're willing them to like be good enough and you're hoping they're going to be good enough. He wasn't one of those. He just came in, and I think he immediately looked like he was ready to come and play. But I don't think and he did improve, but I don't think we saw the level of improvement, the same sort of trajectory that we see with a lot of young players that come to Hibs. And actually, I think if you look at his career stagnating now, I think that's because he's probably not kind of kicked on again to the degree that I think we all hoped he would. But I think that could just be down to circumstances and choosing the wrong club. I don't think Watford's a good move for any player, to be honest. And I kind of said that at the time. I think when he moved there, it would have been better landing spots for him.
I just think if he was still at Hibs, he would still be our best centre half.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
I think he should. I ultimately think he should be Scotland's first choice centre back,
So
and
that
because he got sent off against Germany, he's just been given a real raw deal of it. And I know
yeah.
it was a bad tackle and it was a mistake, but we're losing the game anyway. You know what I mean? It wasn't. He's
No, there's been plenty of bad tackles in games since then
aye.
that haven't resulted in a player being jettisoned from the
Mhm.
team. You've got someone. So you've said you've got.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my number two is Sorry, I just knew that Craig didn't have someone we both had.
Okay,
My number two is Paul Hanlon.
Paul Hanlon. Okay, likewise.
Yeah.
Um, we've spoken about Paul Hanlon probably as much as, if not more than any player
Mhm.
in Hibs history on this podcast. Is there anything that we've not said about Paul Hanlon that you want to
I
say that just unit number
I
two?
just want to say that, last week where maybe we got, or 2 weeks ago, where maybe you could accuse us of being sentimental with having players over David Murphy, be that Lewis Stevenson or whatever, like for longevity and stuff. I think Paul Hanlon was just immensely underrated for almost the duration of his Hibs career as well. And if I had to choose Paul Hanlon, Sol Bamba, Ryan Porteous, or Effie Ambrose in the peak of their Hibs careers, I would pick Paul Hanlon, in my opinion. Like I have him second in my list because I do genuinely believe that is where he belongs, regardless of appearances, regardless of cup wins, anything else. I think was a very, very good football player for Hibs for a long, long period of time.
You could argue, and if you did argue, I'm sure you'd be right. You could argue that he'd probably had his best appearances for Hibs on the left of a back three as well. And obviously that's a system that we've landed on at the moment, left of a back three. Not saying, by the way, that he should be playing for us now, but just obviously that is a system that suited him immensely.
For everything we said about Effie Ambrose, Paul Hanlon done it better on the left.
Yeah. I think there'll be one four-eyed individual who will make a case for the opposite, but we'll move on from that. So listen, I think, Craig, I am going to make a wild assumption that your number one is Paul Hanlon, and therefore there is no big reveal.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Nice stuff. You and I obviously have the same number one. And now, so I'm going to introduce this one. You and allow you to ad lib if you see fit, but it's not a sweeper in the system we're playing. We're playing a back four. This player played the majority of his career at centre mid, but was so good that he just managed to move into a completely different position in the latter stages of his career. That is none other than Franck Sauzet, who is number one on you and I's list. I was obviously fairly young. You was even younger when Sauzet first came to Hibs. He is a player, though, that I have been absolutely fascinated with, really, from the point that he joined, even to this day. I've got There's Only One Sauzet book, which I've read probably more times than I care to admit, because he's a player whose career, I think, just speaks for itself. European Cup winner. You still, I think, in 2025, even though it was like 20 odd years ago, have to pinch yourself that he ever played for the club. One of the most graceful footballers I've ever seen at Easter Road, with, quite frankly, a right foot that just defied belief at points. It's incredible for a sweeper to have a highlight reel like that in
it. Yeah, I like I said to open this segment, don't expect consistency from me. I've probably ignored players from that sort of era on the last two lists. Do you know what? Maybe I played it safe. Maybe I couldn't be arsed getting a slagged for no picking him. But I've actually also read that book that you referenced a good 3 or 4 times. Still, it's actually at my gran and granddad's just now. But I think a lot of things with football and your love for this club, especially like our club, that relationship's built on the stories of your parents, of your grandparents, of your friends and family members, and it doesn't, like my granddad's watched the best Hibs teams, and Frank Sosie's always up there for him, and that's sort of good enough for me. Do you know what I mean? Like it is like that. Like, and when are Hibs ever going to sign someone that's won the
Birthday
Champions
care
League?
Tish.
No, and like YouTube compilations. You know, I never proper. I mean, I know I have seen him play football. I was at the cup final that we lost to Celtic. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit and say fucking hell. I remember when he had his cigars out and that against St Johnstone away or whatever. But like, I have seen him play football, and I think I've seen enough, and I knew
It's
Liam
enough
would
about
have
you.
him.
Let's get back on
Sorry,
Frank Sozzi.
aye.
Right, like
I'm defending myself because I know Craig's probably like, that bastard. I thought we had a deal.
Listen, I don't think anybody can take too much apart at him for putting Sozzy in number one at the same time. Nah, I'm not having it, Ewan. Sorry.
What do you think, Craig?
so
What
for
do
me.
you think? Oh, sorry, Liam.
No, I
Back
was
to
just going
Frank.
to say, for me, he's the captain of this team. Whether this team ends up looking like he's the captain, just based on what he did at this
What
club.
about David Gray?
Don't care. It's
No.
Sozzy. He's captain. He's the best player. He takes the set pieces. Frankly, he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. If he wants to dye his hair white blonde again, I'll tell him it's a great idea. Go for it. Just do what you want. So, what a man, what a player. Ewan, what are you going to say?
I was just going to ask Craig if he's more pissed off at me for putting Frank Sozzy at one or not having Rob Jones and Darren McGregor anywhere in my list.
Sozzy. I just think it's when you've not watched her play that much, But listen, again, I don't think you could be too heavily criticised at all. And I have no issue with Sozzy being number one in the overall list, might I add as well, because he is the best player, and I totally acknowledge that. It's just I have no memory of watching him at all. I would have been 3 when he was playing, so it feels a bit shite bag to say him.
Right, nice one, lads. You've disenfranchised 90% of our listeners who are over the age of 25 or whatever you are.
45.
Brilliant, boys. Let's get on with it. Let's close it. You just remind me of your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 again.
My 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I was supposed to be writing yours down as we went. My 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is Effie Ambrose 5, Ryan Porteous 4, Sol Bamba 3, Paul Hanlon 2, and Frank Sozzy number 1.
Craig?
5, Rob Jones, Darren McGregor, Effie Ambrose, Ryan Porteous, and Paul Hanlon.
And I've got Rob Jones, Darren McGregor, Sol Bamba, Paul Hanlon, and Sozzy. Well, centre back's done. That was definitely, I would say, the most challenging category yet to come up with the top 5. Lots of good quality players in there. We really enjoyed doing that. We hope you did as well. We'll be sharing that list later on in the week on Twitter. Do let us know what you think. You've been really good at telling us we got it wrong so far, so keep telling us we got it wrong. We'd love to hear that. Lads, we've previewed Dundee United. We've covered the Aberdeen game. Anything else to say before we go?
Nah.
Nah.
Don't panic. Don't fucking panic.
Yeah.
Don't panic. On the Hibs.
On the fucking cabbage. We should be good now.